The Biuspp project. Good day. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope you enjoy the presentation and that we can collaborate on the project. Responding to the Metrex invitation to present projects for debate, we have elaborated a project proposal whose showing time is about 30 minutes long. We are going to talk about the following proposal: basic investigation into urban strategic planning processes. We have developed this project in 3 parts. Number 1, theoretical practical foundations. Number 2, the proposal itself. And number 3, the commitments necessary. We begin with the foundations, which are structured into 6 points. That is to say, number 1, the justification of the study. Number 2, our objectives. Number 3, the state of the art. Number 4, the formulation of the hypothesis. Number 5, the quantitative investigation. And finally, number 6, our conclusions. These theoretical foundations are based on the doctoral thesis read the 28th of February 2006 at the Polytechnic University of Valencia, and whose title is Analysis of the Factors and Policies that Contribute to the Design and Execution of Strategic Planning of Big Cities and Metropolitan Areas, based on the experiences of Barcelona, Bilbao, and Valencia. The justification of the study. We thought that this study would be justified by the amount of resources used by the cities that carry out these processes, also by the political activity generated, by the variety of demographic types, political echoes, and resources put into play by such heterogeneous actors. For all these reasons, also we hope that Metrex, theoretically, would support Project Biuspp, based on this investigation. Taking a look at the number and profile of the protagonists. The first process was in San Francisco in 1982. Other cities to which the process jumped were New York, Chicago, Detroit, Miami, Philadelphia, Barcelona in 1988, Bilbao 1990 to 1991, and Valencia in 1993. In 1993, a meeting took place that proposed the creation of the Latin American Center of Urban Strategic Development. Cities like Amsterdam, Lisbon, Lille, Barcelona, Toronto, and Santiago de Chile, Inter-American Development Bank and the World Bank were the promoters of the Latin American Center of Urban Strategic Planning. The number of people affected in Spain by this process came to more than 13 million inhabitants in around 90 processes. The justification of studies. Looking at the political attention. DG8 and the European Awareness Scenario Workshop was sent by the European Commission in 1994 as an action pilot to explore possible interventions to favour social background and to promote innovation in Europe. Law 57 of 2003, Article 13, in paragraph 131 says, the Social Council of the city, should first, in the municipalities indicated in this title, a city social advice group shall exist, made up of representatives of economic, social, professional organizations and of more representative neighborhood organizations. And second, to this advice group will correspond the production of studies and proposals in the field of local economic development, strategic planning of the city, and big urban projects. Justification of the study within the university. We have looked at 2 basic works. University Teseo, Pedro Manuel Gómez Rodríguez, the Faculty of Economic Sciences of the University of the Basque Country in 2001. His thesis was The Management of Knowledge and Competitiveness, Analysis of the Spanish Cities, read in 2005, obtaining the cum laude. Second thesis, by Don Ramon Sanguino, Increasing the Competitiveness of Cities as a Necessary Condition for Development, has to do, according to the doctoral thesis, the management of knowledge and competitiveness. Analysis of Spanish Cities, by Ramon Sanguino Galvan, European Doctor Excelente Cum Laude, the 24th of January 2005, with several components. In his thesis, he said, the economic urban space, institutional and social demographic components of the competitiveness of a city are as in the investigation of Gotthard, Ziccardi and Orihuela, 2003. Our investigation contributes a fifth component, the strategic, which must be considered in the study of the competitiveness of a city, having shown to be trustworthy and valiant. Justification of the study. We also looked at demographic tendencies. In 1997, 46% of the population lived in cities. In 2015, we estimate that 55 people will live in the cities. Urban matters should not be left to chance. State of the art, the borderlines. As you may see in the graph, investigation is beyond normal science. Today, this field is developed by consultants who, as we know, are more interested in the practical and financial aspects of the process. Universities are not comfortable in this field. Metrex could animate universities into investigating into this difficult area. Our objectives: to design a model that can determine the factors of success of a process of strategic planning in big cities. In the best of cases, we'll be able to draw some conclusions about the initial values of variability. These variables could be to identify them, to quantify them, and ask, can we identify statistical correlations? State of the art, non-structured decisions. Mintzberg and others studied 25 processes over 5 years through 50 work groups. Each group took between 3 to 6 months. From each process, they elaborated a detailed description of 2,500 words. The authors came to the following conclusions. First, strategic decision processes are complex and dynamic, but they have elementary components and a basic conceptual structure. Number 2. 7 different processes for the 25 studied cases have been identified. Number 3. The sensation is that we do only more than scratch the surface of these processes. Little is known of the important routines, particularly diagnosis, design, and bargaining pact. It seems that diagnosis would be the most important, as it determines the later performance to a large degree. One sets out, perhaps, to dedicate attention to this routine and less to evaluating the possible alternatives. Number 4. There are important gaps in our knowledge, such as a lack of literature describing the relationships between the processes of decision and structure, between operational decisions and strategic ones. The state of the art. Process of urban strategic planning. The similarities to the previous slide can be clearly seen. But as Jordi Borja and Jaume Casals said, a strategic plan is the definition of a city project that brings together diagnoses, makes specific public and private interventions, and establishes a coherent framework of mobilization and cooperation between the urban social participants. The participation process gives high priority to the definition of contents, since the viability of objectives and interventions that have been set out will depend on this process. The result of the strategic plan is not a norm or local government program, although it's been taken up by the state and the local government will imply it being translated into norms, investment and administrative measures, political initiatives, etc. But a political contract between the public institutions and the civil society. For that reason, the process subsequent to the approval of the plan and the pursuit and implementation of the level of intervention is as much or more important than the process of consensual elaboration and approval. The state of the art. Our tools. In the process of urban strategic planning, consultants use specific tools. For example, fundamental data, 5 forces comp, 13 driven forces, matrices of segmentation, situation maps, strategies of the rivals, key factors, SWOT, stroke DAFO, a chain of value, and the resulting position. State of the art. The different sectors. In the processes of urban strategic planning, consultants analyze sectors of great importance to the life of the city. These sectors may be demography, formation, agriculture, industry, the service, transport, telecommunications, dwellings, collective infrastructures and equipment, and public support. State of the art. The causes. The process of urban strategic planning are put into action by different impulses, the crisis situations not being the most usual. Some of these are crises, of course, revitalization, public-private initiatives, the following of examples in other cities, continuous improvements, events. State of the art. Impulsion. The processes of urban strategic planning are impelled by mixed, private, and public institutions. The formation of hypotheses. We look first at the variables. The exploration of relevant literature and the opinion of people dedicated to political and consulting activities leads us to propose that the success of the process of strategic planning depends on a series of variables to do with aptitudes and others with aptitudes. The formation of hypotheses. The Delphi. Independently of the previous slide, what do experts who direct the process of urban strategic planning think? We decide to begin with the Delphi process in the most open and general way. The hypothesis we came to was the following. Firstly, which variable? What is its influence on the success of the elaboration and execution of a strategic plan of the city? Secondly, what weight would we assign to each mentioned variable in order to explain the success of the strategic plan? And lastly, given that variables cannot be directly identified, what indicators could be used to describe them quantitatively? The hypotheses themselves. We came up with 7 hypotheses to try to evaluate in a quantitative process. Number 1. The leadership of the mayor is significant in the success of the USP. Number 2. The citizen commitment is significant in the success of the USP. Number 3. The citizen temperature its culture of collaboration, of effort, identification and resilience is significant. Number 4. The aptitude of the consultant is significant in the success of the USP. Number 5. The aptitude of the framework organizations is also significant. Number 6. The aptitude of the organizations in coordinating between themselves is significant in the success of the USP. And number 7. Attitudes and aptitudes influence an approximated proportion of 2.33. Note: we have not considered the interrelationships between the different protagonists. The quantitative research. Looking at the design of the research, we have used a survey of a Likert type, 68 items, orientated to success, variable objectives. In addition, some items. The Forrester information diagram on the coherence of the answers and frequent opinions in international forums of political parties. The survey has been carried out by means of interviews in depth with professionals in research and policy making. Quantitative research. The characteristics of this research was: object population. The members of the General Governing Council of Bilbao, Barcelona, Valencia and Seville. From 617 letters, 569 letters arrived to the organizations on the 25th of November 2004. There then followed 2 telephone rounds, and the 5th of February we began the tabulation. The quantitative research. Analysis of results and resistance of hypotheses. Basic assumption. Looking at the values of alpha and KMO. Reliability. A measurement is reliable if it often comes to the same results. Validity. It is the degree to which the measurement represents what was expected. Alpha de Cronbach measures the correlations between variables, moderate and positive. These values should be 0.7 to 0.9. If less than 0.5, you observe factorial saturations. If less than 0.4, if more than 0.4, homogeneity, the internal consistency would be considered satisfactory. KMO. Kaiser-Meyer-Okin is a coefficient of correlation of more than 0.5. The determinant, variance of more than 50%, if there are 2 variables, the correlation is more than 0.3. Quantitative research. The analysis of results and resistance of hypotheses. Reliability. As you can see by these results, the values of alpha at KMO may be considered satisfactory. The quantitative research. Analysis of the results and resistance of hypotheses in 9 models. In the 9 models we analyzed, 3 fulfilled the validity criteria. There are 3 possible models. We chose the one that has the highest R-squared. Quantitative research. Analysis of results and resistance of hypotheses. This is our final model. Quantitative research. The evaluation of the final model. Fit to the chosen model. The model shows the existing data has a very good percentage. The models have a predictive power that comes determined by the value of R-squared. The models with a predictive power superior to 0.1 have been accepted. The value of success is 76.4%. Framework organizations 82.2%. Consulting aptitude technical office 36.3%. And the handling of complexity 55.4%. Quantitative research, analysis of results, intensity coefficient paths. Quantitative research, analysis of results, non-standardized output. Quantitative research, analysis of results and comparison. All the weights of regression have been found to be significant. Quantitative research, analysis of results and comparison of hypotheses, non-standardized total effects. Quantitative research, analysis of results and comparison to hypotheses, significant effects. Standardized total effects. Quantitative research, analysis of results. In the bootstrapping process, Diaconis and Ephron, we tried to construct a population from the sample, calculating the parameters and confidence. In 19 constructs and 500 games, all 500 were found to be usable. Quantitative research, analysis of results. Here, we observe that all results are stable. Now some conclusions. First, the factors that influence decisively in the success of a USP are the leadership of the mayor or president of the organization which supports the process of urban strategic planning, the citizen temperature, urban commitment of social and economic agents, the aptitude of the technical office, the aptitude of the framework organizations, and finally the handling of complexity. Conclusions. Secondly, the three first variables, leadership, citizen temperature, and commitment of the urban agents, make up the attitudes and have a role of necessary precondition, influencing indirectly the attainment of success. They are a necessary precondition. At the present moment, we cannot affirm nor deny the relation between aptitudes and aptitudes. Conclusions. Number 4. We have standardized and non-standardized coefficients of regression of the variables implied in the model, as well as of the tables of the total effects on the dependent variable success of the USP. Conclusions. The 5th. If we take as established the strategic planning as the 5th component of the competitiveness of a city, and that aptitudes are influenced by attitudes, these will be a differential factor for the city's metropolitan areas to articulate the described system, these being subject to the same economic, scientific, and cultural environment. The serious difficulties in the structuring of the Spanish metropolitan areas will make the existence of the suitable preconditions difficult. The processes of strategic planning at this territorial level, starting off with problematic initial values. We can stress the importance of the difficulty to establish the leadership in these metropolitan areas. Conclusions. 7th. In an article published in February 2007, we showed it is probable that attitudes are necessary and sufficient conditions for success. The aptitudes having a reinforcement character. Final thoughts. The main contribution of this thesis is the exposition of a conceptual framework from which the conclusions have been extracted and which we have shown that is to say, if one does not agree, it is necessary to demonstrate why. I do not agree alone is meaningless. We have made a start. Metrex could animate to continue this basic investigation into this well-known marshy and ridge land. This framework must be seen as a step in an attempt to formalize the study of these matters. Theses having a strong political component that we wish to introduce a bit into the scientific field. Our industrial design uses CAD, CAM. The architectonic design uses AutoCAD, and so on. But the social design uses maybe intuition, maybe test and error, or revolution, reaction. It is important to say that formal social design is almost non-existent, whereas within the spheres of architecture, computer, science, industrial design, etc., it has been greatly evolved theoretically. This is why we have made the following proposal. Biuspp proposal. We propose the validation of a mathematical and quantitative theory, orientated to define, quantify the success of the processes of urban strategic planning, governance. We would introduce a fundamental innovation in the way of governing our metropolitan cities and areas. Biuspp proposal. Our lines of investigation. First, to validate on a European scale the proposed mathematical model. Second, operational criteria of allocation of responsibilities. Number 3, the initial starting conditions for the operation of public organizations, boundaries and controls. Fourthly, the construction of interfaces that favor the use of existing tools of decisions. And finally, the development of units of dynamic systems to promote its introduction in non-university educational levels. Biuspp proposal. The first line. To validate on a European scale the proposed mathematical model. Line of validation of conclusions. Delphi members of the project and those technicians, politicians, members of the civil society must be shown to be suitable. The parallel design of multivariate analysis based on quantitative data. Establishment of the Likert questionnaire. The collection of data. Path analysis and structural equations. The result of both processes must converge reasonably. And finally, conclusions. A cost of €9,000 is considered by area or implied metropolitan region. The participation of 30 areas would imply €270,000. Biuspp proposal. The second line. Operational criteria of allocation of responsibilities. The line of legal capacities. The establishment of a framework of legal responsibilities or legal powers of the European metropolitan areas. Establishment of the aspects to be considered in each capacity. To limit the number of levels of government. To assign values according to the results of the third line of investigation. Theory. Establishment of a Likert questionnaire. To obtain data from the deputies of different parliaments. Path analysis and constructual equations. Conclusions. At a cost of €12,000 by each member country, that is to say, a total of €360,000. Biuspp proposal, the third line. Initial conditions of operation of public organizations. Boundaries and control. A line of initial conditions in the organization of correct operation. A study of experience. Establishment of accepted resemblances. Establishment of criteria commonly accepted to decide purchase and investment. Establishment of criteria to measure the efficiency, effectiveness, and quality and proximity of the organizations, boundary and control. Could these be got around? Reformulate the criteria. Final proposal. €6,000 are considered by each participant area. Given 30 members, we would need €180,000. Biuspp proposal, the fourth line. Construction of interfaces that favor the use of existing tools of decision making. Line of support for the decision making. This includes the location of know-how, the work of dissemination of the knowledge by the celebration of days for investigators, consultants and politicians, conditions to make the interface, production of a prototype, online tests, and the conditions in order to produce effective software. At a cost of €9,000 per country, this would mean €270,000. Biuspp proposal, the fifth line. The development of units of dynamic systems to promote introduction at non-university educational levels. This would mean the establishment of a pilot group of professors according to participant areas. Training, proposals, tests, the elaboration of materials. In this we consider €6,000 by participant area. If we suppose 30 areas, we would need €180,000. Biuspp proposal, looking at the resources. The profile of investigating responsibilities. We would need PhD researchers, engineering, economics, physics, mathematics, psychology, sociology, open to all area participants, selected for concrete needs. Software tools, quantitative methods, and qualitative methods. Biuspp proposal, resources 2. The profile of coordinating responsibilities, fieldwork, dissemination, search of resources and support for investigation. Named by the organization which participates in the Biuspp, This may require a small part-time staff. Essential are also good local political relations. Access the directories of members of the strategic planning advice groups. Biuspp proposed. What we're looking for in the results. To validate and to complete, in each case, theory. To construct a competition allocation protocol. To construct the initial conditions of working. To construct interface decision tools. And to construct SD units. Biuspp proposal. Motivation and coordination. In Valencia, Spain, we would be Valencia Metropolitana, Department of Quantitative Methods, the University of Valencia, Department of Organization Companies, the Polytechnic University of Valencia, and others with the execution through the Metrex partners. Biuspp proposal. The cost would mean a total of €1,449,000 with a timetable. The objectives will have been obtained within 4 years of the real launching date of the project. Thank you very much for your attention and interest. And thank you very much to Metrex for its support and action.